Very good. Let's do it. Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing before the New Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board is called to order. In preparation for our business this evening, I ask everyone, tenants, please silence your cell phones and place them in do not disturb mode, what I like to call church mode. And for your information, this, as with all township meetings, is being recorded and shared via virtual meeting. Hi, everybody. The camera's above your head. So, some introductions this evening. Starting on my far right is Ryan Gaiman. He is our Assistant Zoning and Planning Officer. TJ Walsh is a solicitor for the Zoning Hearing Board. Kathy Basili is a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Scott Fisher is a member of the Zoning Hearing Board. Dave Conroy is a Director of Zoning and Planning. Catherine is our court reporter this evening, and my name is Chuck Hoxton, and I get to talk a lot. Little housekeeping. The New Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board is a quasi-judicial body required by statute of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and created by the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. This board is chartered with a single responsibility to provide due process to the citizens of New Britain Township to appeal zoning and engineering decisions made by the township. The zoning ordinance was created and is maintained by the New Britain Township Board of Supervisors. This zoning hearing board has no jurisdiction over the contents of the zoning hearing board. Or zoning ordinance, that is. We ask that any concerns regarding the contents of the zoning ordinance be directed to the Board of Supervisors. The procedures for tonight's hearing shall be as follows. We shall conduct this hearing in a manner similar to that of a court proceeding, and all testimony shall be recorded by our stenographer. All affected parties shall have an opportunity to present factual testimony this evening, and all testimony must be given under oath. Only the facts and testimony presented to the board during this hearing will be considered. The board will first hear the applicant's presentation of their case. The board expects the applicant to state the unnecessary hardship, how the proposal will not be detrimental to the public welfare, and any other grounds the applicant believes support the application. The board will also hear from any other individuals who wish to become parties to this hearing. And as we verified at this point, there are no other individuals here that would be relevant parties. After the testimony is concluded, the board will hear from anyone who simply wishes to make a statement or ask a question that is relevant to the hearing. Depending on the length of the hearing, the board may or may not make a decision on the applications this evening. Our first hearing shall be for the application of 206 Julie Road. And Mr. Walsh, will you please read Mr. Gaiman, will you please read the public notice to place the application on record?
The application of Brad and Chris Ruscio for the property located at 206 Julie Road, in Britain Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, identified as tax map parcel number 262822. Property is located in the RR Suburban Residential Zoning District. Property is improved with a single-family detached dwelling developed as part of a cluster subdivision, use B2. The applicants propose an accessory non-commercial swimming pool, use H4. The applicants seek variances from the following sections of the New Britain Township zoning ordinance. A, from 27-305 H4 B2 to permit the pool and pool deck to be 5 feet from the rear lot line, where the required minimum distance from the rear lot line is 15 feet. And B, from section 27-902 C2 to permit the pool equipment pad accessory structure to be within the required minimum 15 feet separation distance from the principal building or dwelling on the lot.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Walsh, would you please read the board exhibits?
I know before I do that, there was a typo in the public notice because I wrote it. It's actually just the residential district. Mr. Gaiman read suburban residential. That must have been that's an extra word. Suburban shouldn't be in there. Okay, the board exhibits. Exhibit B1 is the zoning hearing board application. Included with the application is the current deed dated December 20th, 2019. The prior deed from Mr. Ruscio was dated April 27th, 2017. So that's when he has owned the property since. Also included with the application was a list of surrounding property owners and an addendum outlining the relief requested. Exhibit B2 is a survey plan, one sheet prepared by Bucksmont Surveying Services. It's dated January 5th, 2023, last revised April 2023. Exhibit B3 are collective letters. They are dated May 9th, 2023 and May 11th, 2023. They are from the applicant's attorney amending the application and granting an extension of time for the board to hold a hearing on the application tonight. Exhibit B4 is a letter to the intelligencer forwarding notice for publication of the hearing. Exhibit B5 is the public notice that was just read into the record. Exhibit B6 is proof that the publication, proof that the notice was published in the June 8th and June 15th, 2023 editions of the Intelligencer. Exhibit B7 is a letter to the applicants and their attorney providing the notice of this hearing. Exhibit B8 is a list of property owners, the township's list, list of property owners of record that are within 500 feet of the subject property. Exhibit B9 is an affidavit of mailing that notice of this hearing was mailed to the property owners listed on Exhibit B8. That notice was mailed on June 13th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. Exhibit B10 is an affidavit of posting. That notice of this hearing was posted on the property. That notice was posted on June 15th, 2023. And with that affidavit is a photograph of the notice. Exhibit B11, lastly, is the Bucks County floodplain viewer aerial and map of the property.
Thank you, sir.
And as the chair indicated, there are no members of the public here that are interested in commenting or taking a position on the application before the board. So there is no need for a party status recitation.
And for your information, Bridget, if you'd like to understand what that means, you can just talk afterward. Okay.
So, Lyons, you prepared to proceed, your witness?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
I would like to do a brief introduction, just going off of what was said. My name again is Dan Lyons, here on behalf of the applicant Brad and Chris Russo right here, and then Mr. Brian Stover is here as well, who is the designer of the pool and the layout of the pool. You guys pretty much nailed everything as far as the information, background information, the property information, and so forth. One piece of clarification as far as one of the items of relief, and that is from section 305H8-4B2, which as Mr. Gaiman read off, is a requested variance in that section. We're actually slightly amending that to request an interpretation that the variance is actually not needed. Under section.
You want me to rule on that now?
If
you can make a record on it, but I know where you're going, and go ahead.
I can make the full record, but I'll do it briefly. Like, okay,
up to you.
Section 20.
Take the time.
What do you got? What do you got, T?
Go ahead. Just keep going.
Well, section 27-902C, which discusses accessory structures in the RR zoning district, specifically says where a lot size is less than 15,000 square feet, which this property is. The accessory structure should be located a minimum 5 feet from the rear property. And then section 305H4B2 says that with respect to swimming pools specifically, swimming pools and their equipment and facilities shall not be located within the required minimum rear yard, which again is 5 feet, or 15 feet from the property line, whichever is less. So the whichever is lesser language triggers the 5-foot setback instead of the 15-foot setback. So we believe we're compliant with the requirement and do not need that variance.
So the only issue is the wording when you equated the minimum rear yard is 5 feet. That's not how I read it. That's a special setback structure, special setback provision in C3. That is the general rule. So the specific rule that applies to the pool, it says required minimum yard or minimum side or rear yard or 15 feet from the rear yard property line, whatever is lesser. So that C3 doesn't establish the yard. It establishes a special setback from the property line, and the minimum rear yard in the district is whatever the regular rear yard, which is just 25 feet. So that's why you get the 15 feet lesser. That's how I read it.
Okay. So then we will proceed with that interpretation.
I'm not saying that's how I read it. I'm not saying it's fair, but I understand what you're saying, but I don't read it that way.
Okay. Let me proceed. So as the we will present, the variances are reasonable and represent the minimum variances that would afford relief and the least modification possible to regulate that issue. As we will also present, the property is unique in size, it's undersized, it's an undersized lot. And the requested relief will not impair the use and development of adjacent properties, nor will also alter the essential character of the neighborhood or have an adverse impact. Present all of those things. At this time, I'd like to call Mr. Brian Stover.
Thank you. Will you be sworn, please?
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Can you spell your first and last name?
Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Stover, S-T-O-V-E-R.
Thank you very much.
And Brian, can you state your professional background and qualifications as it relates to the project?
I designed swimming pools, over 1,000 per year. Over 25 years designing them.
Okay, and where do you work?
FS Landscape.
And that's the company that designs the pools.
That's my
And have you testified previously before zoning hearing boards in the past?
several times.
And
Too many times.
and what are some of those boards you testified? You don't have to list them all.
You name them. Lower Marion, Upper Makefield, Lower Makefield, Redemption Township.
I believe Mr. Stover's testified here too.
Warrington.
I don't recall
I
when,
remember you were.
probably. But I do recall Mr. Stover's he's testified for this board. So if you're asking to introduce him and his qualifications as a designer of pools and whatnot, yes, we'll accept him as that.
Perfect. Covered this case. Thank you. Brian, you're familiar with the subject property and surrounding areas.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to hand out exhibits that will be helpful during the presentation.
Yeah, I have already.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take them.
Utilizing what's been marked as Exhibit A1, can you please tell the board what we see in this photograph here?
So looks like the development.
And you see subject property? Yes. Bottom right. So this is the neighborhood where the property is located, is that right?
Yes.
And you see a number of other pools in this development. Yeah, please, a couple of these in this neighborhood.
Yes.
And there's probably like a dozen or so that we can at least see in this area.
Yes.
So it's again, it's residential neighborhood. Is that correct?
Yes.
And turning over to Exhibit A2, this is an exhibit plan that was put together for the purposes of tonight's hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this was done by Buckmont Surveying Services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did you work with Buckmont to develop the site plan for the pool?
Correct.
Okay. And can you just take the board through what we're looking at in this exhibit plan?
There's a back deck, covered deck. We actually reached out to the township and asked about setbacks, and were given specific setbacks. So we designed according to what we were told by I believe Mr. Gaiman or Conroy. So they didn't want a big pool. It's actually an undersized pool to design it and design it according to what we were told. We could do.
And just to be clear, the raised deck and the sunroom are existing features. Is that right?
Correct.
And they're currently attached to the existing dwelling, which you can see in the light. And the lot itself is 9,618 square feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that is an existing non-conforming condition. Correct. Well, you reviewed the zoning ordinance, correct?
Yes, I did.
And the minimum lot size is 12,500. Right? So this is on size of the pool. Can you speak to that a little bit more? This is actually an undersized pool.
No, yeah, very much so.
So it's not like the applicant's one in gaudy Olympic sized swimming pool in their backyard.
Well, they specifically asked for a smaller pool for their size family. And they did not want a bigger pool.
And you mentioned you're familiar with the zoning ordinance, right?
Yes.
Okay, and section 27902 D2 states that an accessory structure shall be located 15 feet away from the main principal dwelling. Is that correct?
Correct.
And here, despite the pool equipment pad not necessarily being a traditional accessory structure, it's interpreted as such under the zoning ordinance. Is that correct?
From what I'm told, yes.
That's
Ryan, you gotta keep your voice up. Keep your voice up so Cat can hear it.
Just keep it up.
Sorry. Yeah.
And the pad is, like I said, not a traditional accessory structure. It's more closely related to a pad where you would have your AC unit generator. Is that correct?
Right. It's a utility structure.
Utility structure. And can you walk the board through the relief that is required with respect to pool equipment pad?
Well, it meets the 15-foot setbacks inside. But from a utility structure to the interpretation of the township zoning, a utility structure should be 15 feet from the dwelling. But my experience, guys, I've never heard that from a pool equipment. I've put pool equipment up against houses hundreds and hundreds of times. So it's more of a utility compared to like an air conditioning unit or a generator, in my perspective, than a shed or a utility structure. So change your,
I'm sorry, like an in-law dwelling or
yeah, it's not a structure, it's a utility, air conditioning unit.
Okay.
It's pumps and filters and, you know,
right,
those type of things.
And you mentioned that it's compliant with the side yard setback.
100%.
And it's approximately 22 feet from the raised deck to that property line below it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So there's no, if it needs to be 15 feet from the dwelling, it needs to be 15 feet from the side yard. There's no compliant location in the side yard.
I mean, no.
Okay. It physically couldn't fit. And then in the rear yard, according to the interpretation here tonight, it needs to be 15 feet in the rear yard and 15 feet from the house again. So the rear yard is approximately 40 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So again, it's squeezed.
Right.
Again, it's squeezed. So there wouldn't be necessarily a compliant location, maybe a small strip of 10 feet or so, where it could be a compliant location, but there are existing features.
There's a big tree there that would cut the roots of it.
Okay, so
that tree's too nice.
So there's a large tree in the rear of the property that the lines
would obstruct the plumbing.
And of course, where the proposed pool would go, you can't have the equipment pad right in
That's where it should go. If that was my house, any one of these people's houses, that's what you.
And again, it's located close to the home to be obscured as well, right? Not out by itself. The yard.
It'd be hidden. It's the right spot. Yeah.
And in your expert opinion, totality of the application requested, it won't alter the essential character of the neighborhood in which the property is located and substantially impair the appropriate use and development of the neighboring properties. And that's because, again, this relating back to Exhibit A1, the neighborhood with many pools in the area.
Sure. Yeah.
And the variances, if authorized, represent the minimum variance that will afford relief and represent the least modification possible of regulation of that issue. Is that correct?
Sure.
And the project, in all other respects other than the ones we've spoken about this evening, the project complies with the zoning ordinance regulations. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. And have all your opinions tonight been given in your capacity as an expert in the field of pool design installation?
Well, this pool.
Thank you. No further questions for Mr. Stover at this time.
Any questions?
Is the existing house equipment, like the HVAC system, is that on the same size as the proposed pool heater?
Yes, I believe there's an AC
I think-
unit on.
I think it shows it, but it's very faint, so I can't,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
further out
propane.
to the front yard.
but it's on the same side of the
We're
house.
actually tucking it in a corner of the house where the AC unit is on the side, like there's a little jog, we're kind of tucking it in there.
Yeah, you can, it's there, it's very faint on the plan.
That's why.
It's not to interpret it as accessory structure, but pool equipment. The utility structure and.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Stover, what's the approximate size of the pad for the pool equipment?
35 square feet.
Yeah, 4x8, 5x7, somewhere around there.
Well,
I think it says on.
the
I
table,
think it's in the table.
35.
Oh, okay. See,
Yeah,
I'm looking at the
35.
size.
It's a lot to digest
It's
very
small.
quickly, to understand.
Hayward just came out with this new heater that's really. Packs a punch.
So. I guess the area to the rear of the property needs a little bit of explanation in my brain, but so there's. Outside the lot, but there's an existing fence that goes all the way around that goes on to what is in the. Whatever that special area is behind
Ship property.
township property, I suppose, but common ground.
well, yeah, on the record plan, it's open space A.
Correct. And it's actually depicted on the plan that was submitted. This is what's more zoomed in. Exhibit plan so you can see a little better. Yes. Fence and the applicant proposes to comply with the building code as respects to the fence. So no variances are requested. And Mr. Ruscio is here too to testify as well. Some questions if you want to ask him.
The fence isn't before the board. It was just a question. Mr. Stover, if you were gonna make that pool 15 to the edge of that coping 15 feet from the back property line, you'd basically have to remove that deck or build the smallest pool ever, right?
Deck's brand new.
Right, but that's a yes, right?
Yes.
That's the answer to my question.
Yes.
Okay.
Put it in there.
Everything else?
Top of my head.
Okay.
No. Anything further?
Nothing further from Mr. Stover. Briefly, Mr. Ruscio.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Stover.
Swear you in whenever again. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, great, thank you.
Can you please state your name?
Thanks, Brad Ruscio.
And you and your wife Krista are owners of the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you were here to the testimony of Brian Stover?
Yes,
And do you agree with this testimony?
I did.
When did you purchase?
2017,
And do you use it as primary residence?
we did.
And do you intend to remain on the property to proceed?
We did.
Please tell the board a little bit why.
We both like the outdoors. We both have long, hard working days and like to spend our time out back when possible. So relaxing and the exercise.
And have you spoken with any of your neighbors concerning the application?
We have had several neighbors let us know that they really enjoy what we've been doing to the house as far as upgrades and everything. And we have mentioned that we are in the process of trying to get a pool.
And have any of your neighbors opposed it or have any issues with it, so they communicate.
No, they all been saying how nice and things that we've done a lot of upgrades since we've been there.
I have nothing further. See you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Ruscio.
Thank you.
I have no further witnesses.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we'll accept your exhibits. You need to go with the record.
It was the same exact, but it is the whole the cul-de-sac. So we've already gone through it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Straightforward. Yeah. All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to grant the requested variances as proposed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, relief, you'll get, we'll get a written decision within 45 days of today, and Mr. Lyons can explain, the implications between now and then. Good luck with your project.
Yeah. Fortunately, our professional court stenographer knows who to include and not.
I'll do that.
Eminent domain.
It's above our pay grade at this point.
Do anything.
And then, yeah, and then they come here, spend extra money so they can have that, when technically we got the setback over there. But the township lets them put a fence all the way around it.
What does it say?
It's.
Because
that's the way the surveyor labeled it.
That's the way it is on the plan.
The way it is, yeah, that's the way it is. The records. But, and if you look at.
Yeah, it's open.
You build them.
No, they can't.
Well,
Well,
better walk there or whatever.
no. It's, they're calling it open space.
This is the original.
The original work there. But what they're not doing, they're not putting that on thing, it is on the.
Yeah, well, no,
It's on my app,
it's a building.
there, it is a deed.
Down there.
That's their lot, but it's kind of stuff that it allows.
That's the first thing.
That heavily,
Does got it.
I understand that, it's not part, it's heavily limited. Under the ownership of all. It's, we've had, I know I've been the one who had some. The A lots are done. That's what it's considered, they're calling an A lot.
These are here.
It means that there's a, it means there's a hundred property that they own that pay tax on, they can't do anything. Well, that's not true. They can use it, but they can't do anything beyond.
For beach.
Ooh, it's nice, well, in this case, build a fence. The fact that they already have a fence and a shed there. Is the factor that the township was. A lots are they're done. Maybe they make sense somewhere else, they don't make sense in this township.
It's just.
Cheating.
It is. They literally, it's like you hear the lawyer property. It's.
Ready?
I'm ready.
It's cheating.
I'm ready. Am I ready? Got the notice?
You're the important one.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm just gonna mess with you then. You picked the wrong chair. I'm just saying. I'm an engineer, it doesn't count.
Our lawyer won't be happy. Yes,
Well, he's just playing the trombone over there. Okay, let's get back to work here. Okay, our next hearing this evening will be for the property located at 180 New Britain Boulevard and 354 Schoolhouse Road. Mr. Gaiman, will you read the public notice and place the application on record?
continued application of 180 New Britain Boulevard Associates LLC for the property at 180 Brick Boulevard, tax map parcel number 26 on 100, at 354 Schoolhouse Road, tax map parcel number 26-102, New Britain Township. The properties are located in the IO Industrial Office Zoning District. Tax map parcel number 26-100 is approved as a non-residential building, which is approved for a flex space use space B. Tax map parcel number 26-102 is vacant. The applicant proposes to consolidate the properties into one lot and expand the existing parking lot. The applicant seeks relief from the following sections of the New Britain Township zoning ordinance. A variance from section 27-1802B to permit an impervious surface ratio of 72.19%, where the maximum ratio permitted by right is 65%. And B, a special exception and or variance from section 27-2303A and section 27-2904G5 to permit the expanded paved parking lot to be set back 13 feet from the exterior structural wall of the existing building, where the existing parking lot setback is 18 feet and the required minimum setback is 20 feet.
Thank you. Mr. Wall, if you please read the board exhibits.
They are as follows. Exhibit B1 is the application. Included with the application was an attachment outlining the requested relief. The deeds for both 354 Schoolhouse and 180 New Britain Boulevard, and a zoning officer letter dated August 25th, 2021. Exhibit B2 is a zoning plan. It's one sheet prepared by Redo Associates dated March 7th, 2023. Exhibit B3 is a letter to the intelligencer forwarding public notice for publication of the original hearing date, which was April 20th, 2023. Exhibit B4 is the notice of the hearings originally scheduled for April 20th. B5 is proof that that notice was published in the April 6th and April 13th, 2023 editions of the Intelligencer. Exhibit B6 is a letter to the applicant and their attorney dated March 30th, providing a notice of the April hearing. Exhibit B7 is the township's list of property owners of record that are within 500 feet of the subject property. Exhibit B8 is an affidavit of mailing that notice of this hearing, originally opened on April 20th. That notice was mailed to those property owners on Exhibit B7 on April 12th, 2023 by Ryan Gaiman. Exhibit B9 is an affidavit of posting, that notice of the April 20th hearing was posted on the property. The notice was posted on April 13th. Together with that affidavit is a photo of the the posted notice. Exhibit B10 is a letter dated April 18th, 2023 from the applicant's attorney requesting a continuance of the original hearing and granting an extension of time to hold a further subsequent hearing. Exhibit B11 is a further letter from the applicant's attorney dated May 11th, also requesting a continuance and granting an extension to hold a hearing tonight. So out of an abundance of caution, we simply ran another public notice, even though it was probably not legally necessary. We'll mark that as Exhibit B12. B13 is proof that that notice was published in the June 8th and the June 15th, 2023 editions. Exhibit B of the Intelligencer. Exhibit B14 is the prior zoning hearing board decision that affects the 180 New Britain Boulevard property. That decision was dated January 21st, 2022. Lastly, Exhibit B15 is the Bucks County floodplain viewer aerial and map of both properties.
Thank you, sir. And who will be testifying?
I have two witnesses.
Okay.
If it's okay with the chairman, I'd like to do an offer of proof to make this simple. They're here for questions and can corroborate what I would summarize as their testimony. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. Do you want them both sworn in now?
Yes.
Okay. You don't understand, but that's great writing. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. And if you could both state your name for the record, that'd be great.
Sure. Andrew Miller, Director of Land Development, Analyst Commercial Development for our company of the applicant.
Kim Boston, Project Manager with 2 Associates, Civil Engineering. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'm Kristen Pianzio from Hamburg, Rubin, Mullen, Maxwell, and Rubin here again on this application. It's nice that it wasn't too long ago that we were here, so that maybe you remember
We were here for the application and the zoning hearing decision that was marked as Exhibit B14. That hearing was in December of 2021. I had with me at that time we call him the client, who is the principal of the owner and the applicant, Craig Malagrano, explained to this board his interest in purchasing 180 New Britain Boulevard, which at the time was a vacant building consisting of 101,700 square feet. It had 84 parking spaces. We were here for a variance for the number of parking that was required for his proposed K18 use, which is a permitted assembly office use, 80% assembly, 20% office. The code required 370 parking spaces. We asked to install an additional 53 parking spaces for a total of 137. That relief was granted by the board. Craig explained his business, Durapods, where he makes prefabricated bathrooms. That's all contained in the decision and order of January 2022. It is an assembly use. He explained how he purchased another property in Montgomery Township where the raw materials are formulated and the only assembly was to happen at this location. At the time that we came in, certainly the client does not need 370 parking spaces. This building was built in 1994 when the code permitted such a large building with very little parking, and he was trying to make use of the building, utilizing the existing space that he had, but not putting any extra impervious coverage on the property that was unnecessary. We were mindful of other properties within the industrial park, namely the property directly next door that has a sea of parking that is not utilized, and we wanted to minimize the impact on the environment and the property by only asking for that which we needed for his use. So we got the relief from this board. We moved forward with the land development application with the township, worked with the planning commission staff, consultants, and the supervisors, got a land development approval. Craig purchased the property in the applicant's name that you see in the application, put the improvements in, did everything he was supposed to do, and moved in. They have been successful, very successful, so much that they're bursting at the seams, and that is why we are here. We did not want to put in any unnecessary parking when we came before you, but now we see that we have a need. And my client did not just come forward to maximize this property, he actually purchased 354 Schoolhouse to incorporate that property into this one to minimize the impact of this additional impervious coverage. The application for this expansion that is proposed before you this evening would require the merger of those two parcels. That's obviously a condition that we would agree to. The applicant's engineers, who are sitting to my left, appeared both in front of the planning commission and the supervisors with this proposal, and they said, go to the zoning hearing board and then come back. So that land development is pending. The reason why we are here, there's a need by incorporating 354 Schoolhouse, you can see it's outlined on the zoning plan as the rectangle at the top of the page. It permits, and you can see Kim's pointing to it, it permits circulation around the back of the building. It permits the addition of parking spaces, and it permits the addition of 5 loading zones, loading docks. There's 3 today. The proposal is to add 5 more, and it also permits space to park trailers. The trailers that we are proposing would house raw materials at times and then finished products at other times. They will always be fully enclosed. They will always be secured because there's valuable items in the trailers. So the property, the findings of fact and conclusions of law that were entered in your decision in January of 2022 remain the same. The property still suffers a hardship in that it has 3 road frontages. It is irregularly shaped. It is burdened by a pipeline easement, and the 1994 development of 180 New Britain permitted a building with not enough parking for 2023 usage. I can tell you that this is the last time you'll see us on an application such as this. We have maximized
Famous last words.
at least for impervious coverage and parking. We have maximized this property, and what you see in gray on the zoning plan is the addition of the impervious coverage. It requires a variance because your code permits 65%. When we combine the properties, we reach 72.19%. Kim will tell you that she is the civil engineer for the two, and that there is great infiltration on this property, that we can handle the stormwater management that is the result of that additional impervious coverage. The light color is the parking area. The dark gray just shows a heavy paving spec, and that's necessary for the truck traffic that will occur around the back of the building.
Mr. Jones, could I just interrupt you 1 second?
Sure.
When you said circulation, will there be a connector spur, if you will, from the parking garage that appears, the parking area that appears on the south side of the building back to the new trailer area? Or will that, if I'm looking at it, Ms. Fosler, maybe you could.
Yeah, so
existing easement area will remain,
okay.
And then we are providing connection. This is the existing parking here. This will remain, so this will provide a circulation around the building.
Okay, so that's, I can't necessarily see it on the plan, but there is some kind of way you can do a 360 degrees around the building. Okay,
so you
thank you.
Existing driveway there that used to serve a house that used to be on that property. There is no proposed connection to schools. The second, so we need the variance for the impervious coverage, 72.19. There's also a request for a special exception attached to the application, as noted in the board exhibits, was a letter from the zoning officer. Section 2303.A allows a non-conforming setback to extend one time for free. If you want to do it again, you have to come in for a special exception. We already cashed in our one time when we did the original application and added parking around the building. The closest the parking is to the building is 6.9 feet. The code requires 20, so a special exception has been requested for that. So it is my proposal that we are asking for the minimum relief necessary to afford reasonable use of the property. We've minimized the impact by purchasing the adjacent property and merging it with it so that we have additional green space, that this use is still in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and that this use is still not adverse to the public health, safety, and welfare. Let's start with Andy. Andy, you've been sitting next to me since the onset of this hearing, have you not?
Yes.
And in your capacity as the land development director for the parent company, would you agree with my summation of the history of the property and the proposal?
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to clarify about the proposal, change or modify?
No, everything was complete.
And you and I went over these special exception criteria in 2303 capital A, items 1 through 6, did we not?
Yes, we did.
And do you feel that we can meet the criteria for a special exception pursuant to the New Britain Township Code?
Yes, we can.
Tim, likewise, you've been sitting at this table since the onset of the hearing, is that right? And you are the civil engineer responsible for the plans that were developed as part of this application?
I would like to clarify, not as actually as the one here, like the one here, I work for our civil engineer, the land development group as a project manager.
But as Ms. Bianchi stated, your qualifications, you testified for the prior hearing, the board accepted those qualifications, and you're testifying in a similar capacity.
Yep.
That's fine.
You here. Yeah. Is there anything about the summation that I provided that you would like to change or clarify?
Yes, there's one clarification for the special exception for the distance between the paved area and the building. It's 10.49 feet from the paved area to the proposed paved area right here to the corner of the building.
And that's for the additional parking that we're proposing this evening. Okay. And you also reviewed section 2303A relative to the criteria for a special exception. Correct. Do you feel that we meet that criteria? I'd like to move on.
Okay, we'll hold accepting those for just see if there's any questions.
Question. We talk about full circulation around the building. Does that include the trucks as well?
No, the truck circulation will be limited to loading docks only. It will be pedestrian, but most likely we will sign so that they don't go into the loading dock area, the employee.
The other question I have is, according to the offer of proof and what was read, the property can handle the stormwater. I'd like to know how, since it impervious is it's being requested specifically.
We did basin. We did preliminary testing in the proposed impervious areas and got good infiltration in those areas. So our proposal would be to go underground pads.
So as a condition, your client wouldn't be averse to including that stormwater management will be addressed for the township code for subsequent when it's reviewed in the process. But as a zoning condition for impervious surface, that's acceptable.
And would that effectively bring the property to the requirement of the zoning?
Yeah.
The circulation factor, has the fire marshal taken a look at any of the new circulation patterns at all?
Especially during land development,
to that point, the fire marshal did review the plans, the last land development plans that did not have full circulation, still felt they were adequate for ingress, egress locations for trucks.
Is an existing lane in the rear of the building. It's ish that's been there for quite a few years. So that is provided as the fire lane to the rear of the building. It's not very easy to see because there's a number of dashed lines, but right to the south of the proposed parking area right here, there's a dashed line that is the existing fire lane. That will be removed as part of this project and restored back to complete grass.
Looking at your plans, you propose a impervious ratio extension of about 7%. Why or how come this can't be reconfigured to make this comply with existing regulations?
There is an existing easement that crosses the property. So this area, there's an existing stormwater management area, as well as a conservation easement that was put in place with the previous land development plan. And then we also have a large chunk of this site that is included in the gas easement. So we can't push anything out into this area. So that's why this.
I'm not asking that. I'm just saying, for example, the dark area, why not take off maybe one or two of these spaces and you'd probably be down to close to 65%.
In order, so our previous development plan was at 62%. That was approximately where we were at, so we're kind of right at the cusp here. Mm-hmm. So we did purchase this lot, but when we took out the conservation areas from our calculations, our site calculations, it kind of became a wash. So we're still looking at, we can't add too much impervious while remaining compliant. So we had done a quick exercise and we didn't get very much. We wouldn't be able to get all the loading dock in the back here if we wanted to remain under that 65%.
I'm going to ask a question that I can't tell quite from the zoning data tables, but if just as existing, if you were to take the impervious that was on lot 1, do you know if you're, and then if you were to just add that prior figure before it was all removed?
Yeah. You didn't take that into consideration with this calculation. I don't know what that would be.
Okay. So do you see the direction of the question I'm going in? So is it on an aggregate basis, before you did anything out there, would it be less now than what it was before? Okay, no problem.
I'm assuming that lot number 1 is the same zoning as,
It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
just check.
one thing that Kim forgot to clarify, Kim, the pipeline easement is deducted from the lot size, right? So we can't utilize that green space as part of our lot. So that's a further deduction of the lot and therefore it jacks up the impervious. Is that right?
It's part of the space.
Netted out from base site.
Yes.
Also, is it fair to say there's no stormwater management controls on lot 1 existing?
No.
And now it will have some? But that sounds like it's just carrying water. It's sheet, that whatever is sheet flowing into the road, there's no infiltration. So it's just going wherever the slope. So there's no controls. There's a drainage ditch in the road swell. Okay. And now you're proposing stormwater management for that property.
And if we're successful with our request, our next step would be land development and NPDS. Because I think aggregate, we're over the amount of impervious it now kicks us into an NPDS permit. So we get the joy of going through all the conservation district.
That sounds joyful.
PCSM. It is. I can't wait. So sorry.
Are you a masochist, sir?
Okay.
So we understand that and meeting the township requirements, working with Craig and his staff, and the underground, that was one reason we went out, we spent the money to do that infiltration testing early on to basically kind of prove this theory of, can we add the additional impervious? Can we infiltrate it? Can we come up with a stormwater design? We didn't want to make a deal with ourselves, come to you, ask, get it approved, and then realize we can't mitigate the stormwater. Now we're no further ahead than we were previously.
Ms. Pianzio, could you just clarify for me, your variance, you're now adding additional parking spaces from what was proposed, you had a number back in January of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And now you're adding some more parking spaces.
Yes.
Okay. And you're also adding some of the truck loading, which there wasn't any before. There was 2. Okay. But you're not expanding the size of the building. Okay. So they're actually getting more compliant on the parking and the loading because the building's not expanding. It's a trade-off. Parking versus, parking grass.
Will this new proposed area in the dark gray have curbing and everything with it? And what about for fencing or anything? How are you you said you're gonna secure the property because of the valuables. How is that? We'll be locked.
The trailer should be secured. Right now, we don't have site fencing. We don't thankfully have a need for it to be locked down and anything at this point.
Any further? Nothing further. Then your exhibits will be received. Fine, straightforward.
Okay, we'll go off the record. Record. Or go on the record.
There's probably two conditions you want me to frame it.
I would be grateful for that.
So the board has deliberated. The recommended motion will be to grant the relief as requested, subject to the following two conditions. One, the lots will be consolidated, so there is no interior lot lines. And two, the stormwater management basin infiltration will be done in accordance with the township. Further review in the township applicable ordinances to produce a de facto ratio that's compliant per the testimony.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Writing. Make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Nice to see
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck with the project.
Busy.
Where?
This whole curve.
Oh, I mean, I haven't been over there in so long, I didn't even know. I was surprised when I saw that they took the house
Good to see
down.
you. See ya.
I don't go up there as much as I used to.
We've talked about this guy too. Yeah, the general.
Talk about a previous non-conformance, his house was it.
Didn't he have the General Lee in the garage?
I don't remember.
I know he had the General Lee. I saw it driving by. I saw it in there one time.
Did it have the horn?
I only saw, I didn't hear. Sorry.
He just used to yell it out the windows.
But it was a spitting image of the General Lee. Huh? We are.
Do you have any questions? Oh, it's.
Okay, so everybody here tonight was a party, meaning the applicant, somebody who submitted it. So there's a ways for the public to show up, to involve themselves in the hearing. 3 ways. One, they don't have to do anything. They can just sit and watch, kind of like what you did. 2, at the end, if there is any public, we kind of open it up. The board will allow public comment. The comment has to be relevant. It can't be repetitive. It can't be, sometimes we're here.